Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis.
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
Good day and welcome to the podcast. This is CampHacker episode 116, recorded on the 2nd of October, 2019. On today's show, what makes you productive? We are so excited to be coming to your ears every 2 weeks now, but just to be sure you don't miss out, we recommend that you subscribe to CampHacker in whatever podcast you have on your phone, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever. As well, if you enjoy the podcast, we would be so grateful if you left us a review on one of those sites. Not only will your reviews help people find the show, but they'll help us continue to make the types of podcasts that best support the camping industry. For those of you who have left us reviews, and for those of you who haven't, but soon will, thanks for letting your awesome out, Camp Mavericks. We hope you enjoy the CampHacker show.
Hello, Camp Pros, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. My name is Travis Allison. I'm a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant, and I run campmavericks.com and the Summer Camp Professionals group on Facebook.
Hi, my name is Dan Weir. I've been working in overnight camping and day camping for over 20 years, specifically with the YMCA. I work for the YMCA of Long Island, developing their day camps. I couldn't be happier to be here today.
And my name's Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams Summer Camp and Retreat Facility. And we are part of the United Church of Canada's camping network. And we're located, for everybody's knowledge, about halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
We should make a song about that. The halfway between Detroit and Toronto song.
I do. I have a song. That I sing to myself as I drive to the Detroit airport because it's actually slightly closer.
Gotcha. Well, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the two of you. Gab is unable to join us. She's stuck in airport land somewhere, but Dan is at a conference, and we're grateful he was able to sneak away to come on do the show today. We are going to be talking today. I think it's appropriate. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 2nd of October. I think it's appropriate for this time of year. It's called what do you do to be productive? And so I want to think about the stressors of being a camp professional, as it has over the years gotten harder and harder and harder to do this job. And I know that it's a discussion that we often have amongst the CampHacker podcast folks. So I thought we would channel that discussion today and try to give some insight to people who are struggling to get themselves organized, trying to get their life together camp-wise, and just trying to feel like a little bit more control in what their job is. So, Joe, I know that you've invested a lot of your professional development into studying and taking courses in productivity. Is there a reason why you've invested so heavily in it?
I think part of it is that there's this belief that you can always be more productive, and I think that there is in today's culture, because the culture has changed significantly since I started reading about it and looking at it and going to these things. And maybe the culture has changed and I've changed as well, is that I invest that time so that I can feel like I'm more productive or that I'm doing things. But all of that knowledge has led me to a different mindset as I've gotten older, right? This idea that filling every moment of every day is not the goal of it. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you are a knowledge worker, which a lot of your camp career is about knowledge, there's a huge value in doing things that let your mind wander on something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I invest that time. Now I invest that time in conferences and things away from camping to see how that applies back to camping and to see how that goes as we go forward. Yeah. There's a quote I'll bring up. There's a quote I've been following for years. So
Great. I'll come back to you for that. Dan, you had a joking response to this question before we get going, but I think it has some awesome implications. What is your one rule to rule them all when it comes to productivity?
Just say no. It's funny. This is something I think I'll be working on until I die. I just switched roles, and the person that worked directly for me for years, my entire 9 years I was in this previous role, said to me, "Please do me a favor, do not overcommit yourself when you go to this new place,
Right.
and learn how to say no." And it's a hard thing. I think when you think of camp people, you think of caring people. You think of people that know that we could always improve. The best camp directors I know are always hungry to take things further. And sometimes that hunger means you bite more than you chew. And learning to say no is important. And learning to prioritize what's important and what makes you happy. And if it doesn't fall into those two things, how can you delegate it? How can you say no without being a naysayer, for lack of better words, but learning to say no. Yeah.
And I think
one of the most valuable things, like the learning to say no, is huge. And I think that when you're younger, no matter where you're working in camping or anywhere else, you feel like you can't say no. And there's tons of people who say yes because the groupthink is that you can't let an opportunity pass by. The reality is, as David Allen says, right, you can do anything you want. You can't do everything you want, but you can do anything you want. And so you have to learn to say no and understand that that fear of missing out is just something that happens.
Right.
Yeah. I know Travis wants to, but I just started a new job. I'm 38. You think I would know how to say no? In the past 4 weeks, I've done things where I'm like, I should have said no to. But I'm in a new job, and I don't want to say no right now.
Right.
It's a hard thing. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I would say, by way of opening, my own philosophy of this, or thinking about productivity, comes from, I have a clinical diagnosis of ADHD. I say clinical diagnosis because it's not one of those, I could just say off the cuff, I have ADHD. I had it diagnosed by a psychologist. So it's been a struggle for me to feel productive. It's a struggle for me to stay productive every day. It is something that I've been really conscious of, and I think I get a little better all the time. I definitely, moving into leadership at camp, had to become more organized and more thoughtful about all these things, more intentional about setting myself up and the people around me, because I can get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff, all the things around me, things that could be done or should feel like they should be done. And I would say that in terms of thinking about productivity, for many of us, this is a long time CampHacker podcast discussion. A lot of sort of first thoughts on setting up systems to be more productive. For many of us listening, certainly for those of us on the show, comes from David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. Has been following the GTD or getting things done stuff online. And I think it's one of those things that is always, the interesting thing about productivity is that it's exciting to try new things or see new things. But I think we have to constantly be reminding ourselves that we need to be evaluating them, not just moving from one new thing to another new thing to another new thing. Even though, for the way my brain works, that just makes me happy. Keep trying out new things, keep learning new things. I'm totally happy. But David Allen's book was really good, and I would say that one of the best lessons that can come out of getting things done is the idea that the first option, if you can do something in 2 minutes, you should just do it. You shouldn't take the time to write it on a list. You should just get it over with. The second option is always to delegate it, and that is an incredibly important lesson for a camp director. For your own survival, for your own longevity in the industry, is to be good at delegating and figure out how to set that up properly.
Yeah, I think that I've attended a Getting Things Done workshop, not led by David Allen, but like I have the tickler file in my office that I still use. And what I've discovered over time is that you use what works from different systems that works for you. right? This idea that you have a trusted way that things get dealt with is the key to productivity. If you're always looking for what's cool and what's next, it can be a challenge, but it is one of those things where once you get to something that works for you, don't just change for change's sake, change because it doesn't work properly for you. And this goes all the way back to the early days of the internet. The early days of the public internet. I was working at the Taylor Staton camps at the time, and I had to interview and hire like 240 people a season. And I would just forget interviews. Like I would write it in a paper book, and I would just like forget that I was supposed to call England at 7 p.m. our time, right? And I'd be like, and that's where I got my first Palm Pilot, like my first personal digital assistant. And it's everything is a test until you put it into your system as you work through it for productivity.
And I think that's another great takeaway from David Allen is that you shouldn't store things in your brain. That getting stuff out of your brain and on paper or into whatever your system is the most effective way to remain calm about things, because you're not expending the energy of saying like, oh yeah, I got to remember to call Joe at 5:30. I got to remember to call Joe at 5:30 while you are talking to somebody else on the phone. Is to figure out a system as a way to get things out of your brain.
I've learned I can't even trust my brain. I used to really trust it. And then as I've gotten older, being like, no, I can't fully pay attention to my kids when I go home. I can't fully pay attention to my time off. And so I really need to write everything down. And so, little tricks like sending myself an email, so it's there when I check my email again. It's the top of my inbox, but yeah, I literally can't trust my brain.
Right. Well, and it's huge. Like if at night before I fall asleep, there's something that I know I need to do, that's it. I send myself an email because email is a trusted system. I know that if it's there, I'm not going to just delete it if it's not working, or if it right. And this is where I've tried. I'd still subscribe to Evernote, right? And I have some getting things done set up in Evernote, but the reality is, I still refer back to like the original bullet journals, not all of the nice looking Pinterest type bullet journal stuff that you see. It's literally just a page with a ton of crap on it, right? That has a system for checking and a system for saying, oh, that's done. And now I can move on. And I go back every couple of weeks and move everything forward if I haven't finished it until this fails me dramatically. That's my trusted system.
So Dan, how do you organize your life? I mean, you've had a chance to reevaluate it, obviously, but how do you organize it?
Yeah, no, it's funny. So this is unique. I just did this transition from job to job, and I had this moment where I was cleaning out my desk and cleaning out my stuff for days, and transitioning over for my successor, and I was doing a ton on paper, and I realized how heavy that paper was for me, and how I need to basically, like Joe, I like notebooks, but every week or two, I need to type up what's in my notes, and then I need to throw it away. I really need to and the reason I type it up is so I could just hit Control F and find it. The searchability in a notebook, it does not exist, and so that is something that I've noticed now, kind of rebooting into a new role that I've been taking more seriously, and trying to type all my notes at the end of a week. So that's one thing for me. Another was I recently read the book When, great book. I think it's by Dan Pink, I want to say, but it's all about the rhythms in life and timing in life. And I really learned in that book that mornings are more for analytical work and afternoons are more for inhibited work. So I've tried to do is schedule all my meetings for the afternoon and try to schedule all my productivity, for lack of better words, for the morning. And so now when it gets to 4 o'clock, I'm like, I could take care of this, or can I really wait till when I first get in tomorrow morning and I can knock it out in a quarter of the time? So I've been doing that in terms of productivity. I've been telling myself there's always a tomorrow when I do that, like really going back to that phrasing of no. And then the only other thing I do, and this is, David Allen as well too, but but not necessarily exactly his language, but just breaking everything into 4 categories. So urgent, important, not urgent, important, urgent, not important, and not urgent, not important. So urgent, important means I got to get it done that day. Not urgent, important means I need to get it done soon. It's got to stay on my radar for up on deck. Urgent, not important means I really should be delegating that. And then not urgent, not important, then why am I writing it down? And I should, that should be a quick email to somebody. That should be something where I should try to let it go or delegate it, but I should not be taking on that column whatsoever in the slightest. Yep. So I really try to stay in those categories, and then just be diligent about taking that time, protecting my time, really protecting it.
Awesome. And if people are interested in more ideas and research around those 4 quadrants, you can look up Roosevelt quadrants. It's I think it comes from one of the Roosevelts for the way they organized all the information as president. So where do you put things that you can control F or control find, command find to get all that info that you've typed up?
Yeah, Google Drive is pretty amazing. It really can narrow down searches. I try to be explicit in my folder tree as well too, and in my file titles as well. So I try to do things chronologically, but then if it's a subject matter I'm working on over years, then really try to just put it in that column. So one of the nice things was I had a budget folder, and I had every budget broken down by camp for the past 9 years. And so when I was handing things off to my successor, I was like, oh, good. I don't have to organize this. It worked really well. So really taking the time to organize those things. So that's why at the end of every week, I'm really trying to leave time to reorganize and to really look at the folder tree and how things affect and to move it around. It's difficult. I think, a systems mindset, you want to stick to your system, but you have to recognize that your system is going to change as time changes, as your role changes, as your delegation changes. And, if you're delegating things and you want to hold something private from somebody, which I don't recommend, I just recommend just being transparent. It's much easier in your brain. I always joke that look, I don't lie because I can never remember the lie. It's way better to be honest than I have to waste that capacity, and that's productivity as well too. If you're having conversations where you're lying, then you're wasting your time and someone else's time. So, but yeah. So I try to be explicit in folder tree, explicit in the file title, and then Google's just got such a powerful search. I can search within the documents, which is fantastic. You open something up, Control F, it doesn't take that long, So yeah. Dropbox isn't bad for that as well too, but I really like Google Drive.
Right. Do you still? You were one of the, and it was on the show ages ago. You were one of the first people I know to say that you took notes from phone calls with parents, so you could refer back to them, and you knew what was said, and you had a date and time on that. Do you still do that? Yeah.
So if I have a conversation with a parent, I will do it through email. And so I'll literally email myself and whoever my direct report is, and say, talk to Mrs. Jones about such and such. Just wanted you to have a documentation of the phone call and just several bullet points. And I can't tell you the amount of times that saved us. To pull up that as an archive, and a lot of camp, different camp registration softwares have built-in CRMs, but so much of the work I was doing was not falling into just necessarily the clients of camp. So that's why email is so powerful as well. And every email provider now has really gotten on it, really gotten on top of it.
Yeah. Make it easy to search and figure that stuff out. Great. Joe, other than bullet journal, what's your system look like?
Well, my system looks a lot like what Dan was saying with we've moved everything now to Google Drive. We've moved email I think email, for those people who haven't been, there are still a ton of people in this world who delete. And I don't get it.
No.
I've been trying to train my staff just to archive, because you never know. Just the other day, I got an email from a friend looking for guest speakers from 2009 and 2010 of the Society of Camp Directors as we were doing a list up. And I just typed in what I typed in, and Gmail found it in less than 2 minutes. Right. And so I forwarded it off. I think the idea of what I also use is just I've moved away. So what I travel with the journal, but I also travel with a portable calendar that's not my phone, although I do have it in my phone, right? But every year I go out and buy a, whatever this is, an at a glance calendar, because it allows me to see differently than it does in my phone. Google Calendar is one of the biggest ways that you can see the world and let others see your world. Because remember, productivity is not just about how you do it for camp. Productivity is also about how you do it for your family, right? And how those two worlds mix. And so having older kids now at 14 and 16, we all have access to the Richards family calendar. And if it's not in the Richards family calendar, it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not a thing. And so when they have a practice, or if they want to go out, right, like on a Friday night, just put it in even as a tentative, and that helps us to get those things together. I think that I used to have a desktop calendar, like
blotter pads.
Yeah, but instead I just went to a blotter pad, right? Like just a giant piece of paper that I could write on. I think I buy one new one every 5 or 6 years at this point.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, because paper still does a lot more than a computer in the way your brain works. And one of my tools of the week recently was Adios. Did I do Adios?
For email? You did for inside Gmail?
It's not on here, but it's for Gmail to schedule the times it comes in. And that I've only been doing for maybe 6 months, and it has been the biggest boon to productivity, because you're not constantly reacting when a new email comes in. And the benefit is you might be in your email program working away, right? And then our mind reacts when a new one comes in, whereas Adios is just saying, hey, it'll come in. I'll just dump them all in at 11 a.m. Great.
Right.
Perfect. Then I can deal with them at 11 a.m. I find the more time I leave my mind free to learn and to think, not even to learn, because that is one of the dangers with productivity is you can chase it, as you said you have, Travis. It's the same reason that I can look up on my shelf and I can see a whack of blank journals, because I love the idea of starting something, right? And with productivity, you can keep chasing it. But I think back to my university times when I was doing a thesis, and my thesis advisor literally, I said, hey, I found this great article on this and great article on this, and I did that for months, and he finally said, stop doing research. You need to write your paper, right? Like you need to, because you can research interesting productivity tips for the rest of your life. You just need to live your life, right?
Never take a break.
Yeah,
for sure.
But saying no is big. Adios has been huge. The idea that you can let your mind wander is another bit. I did find earlier, and I typed into my Google Drive raking leaves.
Yeah. And
one of the quotes that I love, and I've had for years, this is another thing. There's something called a commonplace book, which many people have had in the past, and might have been a tool of the week years ago, but the idea that you should save your quotes to one spot, all the quotes you love, so that you can go back and look at it. But this one is by a guy, Philip K. Howard, and it says, smart people spend time alone. They don't fill their days with appointments from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. as many politicians and executives do. Great science does not emerge from hard logic and grinding hours. It comes from the mysterious resources of the human brain and soul. Inspiration is nurtured by activities like raking leaves and chopping wood, preparing dinner and reading to the kids. These activities soften the rigid pace of the day's pursuits and allow all-out God-given intuition to work its unlogical magic. Only then can we reach our fullest potential. Only then can we leap from thinking to understanding. And honestly, it has helped me a tremendous amount with the idea of your greatest ideas for camp or wherever you work are not going to come from sitting and answering an email to somebody about a trade show, right? Like your greatest ideas might be going for a walk every day at 2:00 in your woods, or just going for a walk every day at 2:00 away from your desk, just to let yourself think about it. So,
right. That's great. Thank you. I was thinking about what my system is, and for me, the small daily stuff I really need to have on paper in front of me. I enjoy scratching it out. I enjoy just the physicality of having it. I don't keep those lists around. I have found that in general, the one thing I've stuck with for a pretty long time comes from a book called The Productivity Planner. They gave away a free PDF of what each page looks like. So the YouTube people can see. I made a copy of that PDF and keep it every day. And it helps you organize your stuff by the one most important task of the day and then sort of secondary tasks of importance. And their philosophy is you can probably get 3 things done in a day on top of answering emails and all that, but only if you prioritize it. So I often use that from day to day. I'll scratch off stuff or remove stuff, reorganize what's the priority, and then just stroke stuff off there. So I found I've used that pretty often for organizing big groups of people. We've moved GoCamp Pro to Basecamp this year, and I find Basecamp is a technological solution that's not terribly uncomfortable for people who don't like technological solutions because it sends a lot of emails. So those who don't love an app or that they get the same kind of reminders and understanding of the communication or know to check in on the communication project management system because the Basecamp can send a lot of emails. The nice thing is that you can customize what emails come to you. So you can cut down if there's a noisy group that you're in Basecamp with. And then I also keep notes and ideas in an app that I've talked about on the show before many times. On the Mac, it's called NVAlt. That's Notational Velocity Alternative. The thing that syncs across Macs and for my Android phone of NVAlt is called Simple Note, and it is just a nice text-based system. That's what I moved to when Dan gave me that idea about taking notes from phone calls. I put them in Simple Note, and I also have text expander snippets made up of date and time, and even a format to record standard calls because I do that so often that the text expander snippet just makes it easy, shortens the amount of time it takes me to take notes. And I think that all of those things could change next week. Those are things that have been pretty consistent over time. So those are things for me. I think, and I appreciate from both of you that we've been talking about things like a philosophy, a way of looking at this as much as the tools or more than the tools. And I think that that's really important. So, Dan, other than say no, is there any other big advice you'd have for someone who's feeling overwhelmed and looking for a way to get themselves organized?
Yeah, Joe, you and Joe have all hit at this. Okay. I think just anything you do to protect your time, where you are making time for your own brain, and giving yourself space to really understand what you value. Like when I first stepped into a camp director role, a program director role, I was so gung-ho. And my wife was gung-ho about her work, and we just moved very fast together. And then she stayed in a similar role. I changed roles, and I got more gung-ho. And I didn't really recognize that she was downshifting a little bit. And it made me out of tune for a while. And I think if I was taking more time like I do now to reevaluate what's important daily, and make sure I'm actually practicing what I preach.
Yeah.
There's too many divorces in the camp profession. There's too many people that can't find a spouse that understands camp. And there's too many people that aren't willing to change their life to accommodate family, and it's great when you can merge your love and your family with your work. And if you're able to do that, and I'm thrilled for you and happy for you. My wife, who even though was a camp person, made it very clear that she didn't want to have her profession in camping. And I had to adjust, and adjust changes based on what's important.
Right.
And I think taking that time not only to communicate with whoever's in your life, so you're having a well-balanced life, but also just taking that time to make sure that you're in tune with what you value, not just sludging through. I mean, we could sit here and talk about efficiency and productivity tips. I think that's why we named the podcast CampHacker, right? Like it's all about hacking and making it faster. But if you don't know what makes you happy or what's your value, what you're valuing, then what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. I think about, because I work from home, Beth works out of the house. She comes home and asks how my day is. I think about the days that I say, well, I got a lot done today. I think that those are actually quite rare, days that I feel like I got a lot done. But I always know that they are days that I don't spend on calls or on Zoom all day. And I do a lot of that. It's an important part of my job, but I have learned to block out the time so that, like Dan was suggesting, unless you're friends or family, you can't get on my calendar in the morning. You've got a window between 2 and 6 in the afternoon that you can get on my calendar. And I allow people to put themselves on my calendar because I've got the parameters set up so tight. But there's basically 4 days of the week that I'll take calls for 3 or 4 hours a day. And the rest of the time I block out because I feel like I get more done. And on days when I actually don't have calls in the afternoon, I feel I can get a lot done. And so I've been listening to myself when those days happen and knowing that I have to make sure I control my calendar and have a good mix of community, hanging out, doing fun podcasts with great people, and talking with clients about the cool stuff that is going on at their camp, and just the heads down getting creative work done, because that feeds all of the rest of it. It feeds the ability to create podcasts. It feeds the ability to do good work for clients, etc.
Yeah.
Do you have more you wanted to say, Dan?
No, the only other thing I can think of is just prioritize your health. I loved working out, and then I stopped for almost like a decade, and then I just started working into my routine and daily, and just 30 minutes. That's all I could do. That's all the time I got, it will stimulate your brain in a different way and make you more productive. So,
yep.
I think one of the other things we need to really make sure people understand is that, as in life, you shouldn't judge yourself against other people so much, right? Like this idea that you see someone who is what you would call super productive.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, there's a danger in saying, I want to be like that person, or I'm going to use all the tools they use. The real trick is figuring out what works for you, and not, your life will be much happier if you don't compare yourself to someone else or try to be someone else.
Yeah.
Just be yourself. And I think for productivity, if you feel like an hour of video games a night fits into your schedule and you don't have kids, then great for you. Right.
Yeah.
Or if you feel like, watching a show with your spouse is an important part of your night, then so be it. Right. It's, and it's one of those things where it's those small tasks. And if you can get productivity and family working together, it's a huge thing. But there's something to be said for allowing yourself time to think, time to ponder. Years ago, when Mad Men first came out, it was this idea that Don Draper would go to the movies in the middle of the afternoon,
Right.
which is something I'd been doing for years as a camp professional, just to sort of get away and out of the office and somewhere else, to allow that to marinate in your head so that it can come out either more fully formed or give you a better idea. One of the things I do for productivity and more for interest's sake is I use Evernote to dump everything into. Its search function works great as well. I keep a folder called Ideas from the Mind of Joe. You can pay to be a member of this folder. There are just some really, and I'm not sure if everybody has them, but it's one of those things where you're like, well, what if, or, oh, that would be an interesting time travel whip. That's as much as you get. But like the idea that you can, putting things somewhere where you can have them is the old school of scrapbooking, in the sense, once again, scrapbooking like the bullet journal has been co-opted. But remember when I was growing up in the 80s, you had a scrapbook of things you loved, right? Like the Time cover with Ben Johnson on it, or the or your favorite Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. They were pasted into an actual book, and I'm trying to see if I have mine sitting on a shelf. I do somewhere, but this is what we're doing. We're collecting ideas so that it gives us inspiration moving forward. And it's not always camp. It has to be what is our place in the world? Where do we fit? And how can we create better citizens for the world as well?
Right on. It's probably a great place to end this discussion, Joe. Thank you. Let us therefore move on to our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
So welcome to the Tool of the Week section, sponsored by my weekly Tool of the Week newsletter that you can sign up at gocamp.pro/TOW. These are all something we ask people to bring that makes them a better camp director. And so I'm going to start us off to buy a little bit of time for the others. My tool of the week is a Rode Video Mic Mini. It attaches to the top of any modern camera that has a mic input, and is one of those super simple things you can do. It costs $80 Canadian. I don't know. It's probably about $50 US. That you just attach to your camera, that it'll allow you, if you have it there all the time, to be able to spontaneously gather things. Like if you hear a staff member talking about how campus changed them, you could just say, hold on one second, pull out your camera and go. And there are lots of better ways to get better audio, but instead of just straight out audio from whatever SLR camera or the video camera that you have in front of you, just adding a little mic on like this. Rode's a professional company from Australia, can do wonders in terms of making your videos easier to understand, easier to appreciate, and easier to digest. So that's the Rode Video Micro. And I've got lots of Rode mics, and this is just the newest one that's going to go on my little mirrorless camera as the shotgun mic for that. So Dan, what's your tool?
My tool is a book called The 5 Important Questions You'll Ever Ask About Your Organization. So it's from the same school and same publishers of Good to Great and Built for Last. Jim Collins even wrote a book, but basically this is a book I go back to a lot when the 5 questions are: what is your mission? Who is our customer? What is the customer value? What are our results? And what is our plan? And as I'm thinking about bigger themes with a summer mounting, or noticing any decline in anything in terms of enrollment or and who we're serving, or a negative survey score, I often go back to this book when starting to brainstorm at the fundamental level of what we want to do. And it just it helps guide the questions that I should be asking. And I just think as a whole, the camp industry has very talented people, very versatile people. And the difference between the really good camp directors and the really great camp professionals are the ones that ask questions and listen. And it's just a really great book. Light read, very, very quick. I've talked about it before in this podcast, and it's I read it a decade ago. It still sticks with me. So
it's true. Dan put it as his tool of the week. What does that make it? 9 years and 11 months ago. This is Dan's tool of the week. Maybe it's 8 years and 11 months ago. So thank you. It's great to know that it has longevity and staying power, and there won't be a ton of people who were who've listened to every episode. So thank you, Dan, for sharing that. And Dan, I think you probably have to get going. Do you want to just let people know how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm at the Diversity Inclusion Conference for the Y, and I'm super excited about the work the Y is doing with social responsibility in particular. And just happy to be. There's a cohort here for working on camping and inclusion. So that's where I'm at right now. That's why I have to go. But you can reach me on Twitter at Dan Loves Camp, on Instagram at Dan Loves Camp, and my email is just dan.weir@ymcali.org. But thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for fitting us in, Dan.
Yeah, take care.
It's awesome. Good to see you. If you have questions or want to see things like what are previous tools of the week, I hope you go to camphacker.tv/podcast and or search for Tool of the Week or TOW, and you'll get to see all of the past tools of the week. There'll also be some show notes from each one of these episodes. Joe, what is your tool of the week this week?
My tool of the week came as we were discussing this. I use this on a daily basis. It's called a tickler file. I bought mine originally from Getting Things Done. I've looked for it online. I can't find it for sale online, but you can make your own. It's very simple. A tickler file is this idea that you have 43 different files. 31 of those are days of the month, and then 12 for the months of the year. And you literally send yourself mail. This is one way to organize all those paper things that we have to deal with, even though we're mostly a digital society. So be it I don't even know, like a grant proposal or something I've printed out, a health inspection, something that I need to move forward
ticket, hotel booking.
Yeah, you can use it for hotel bookings, and you can use it for plane tickets, things that you want printed out, directions, if depending on your life. But what I use it for a lot is moving things forward that I don't want to deal with today, right? Like I see this invoice and I'm like, I'll deal with it in a week, and I'll just put it a week further out. Or I have a board meeting folder that just keeps moving every month to my board time, because there's a lot of paper that travels with board meetings, right? Like signed minutes and signed grant proposals and things. So the tickler file, there's a couple of links in our show notes regarding the tickler file and how to best create it and use it.
Right on. Thank you very much, Joe. If people have follow-up questions, how do they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me through yoyojoe.com, yoyojoe.com, or they can use our camp website at campisbetter.com, and email is always best. So joe@campisbetter.com or joe@yoyojoe.com.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe, for being here.
Not a problem.
Right on. So I want to say thank you to Joe and Dan for being here. Again, if you want to check out the show notes, they're at camphacker.tv/podcast. If you like what you learned, and I've heard some good stuff from CampHacker this year, we'd love it if you'd give us a rating and review. So the easiest way to get there is to camphacker.tv/iTunes. If you listen on Stitcher or some other app, then you should be able to leave us a review there, and they are very helpful for helping other camp pros find the show. We want to thank our editor and producer, Matt Hansberger, for helping us getting the show out every other week. And Matt's the one who does our show notes. So if you go to camphacker.tv/podcast, you'll see Matt's work, as well as hearing Matt's work in the final edits for the show. But thank you all for listening. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The CampHacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening. CampHacker, bringing your world into focus.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.